I've learned from a lot of people on my journey to become a full-time trader. I've had every type of mentor, guru, teacher under the sun. Some I found for free on YouTube. Some I've paid a small fee in terms of their book. Some I've paid a very large fee in terms of paid mentorship. All of them have provided me with some sort of beneficial nugget. You really can't go wrong in paying for knowledge and paying for mentorship to get you further ahead. But one dude in particular has had one of the most profound effects on my trading journey. And this dude you're not going to find being interviewed by words of wisdom. He's not going to come into the general trading sphere because he's not a trader. You might have heard of him, Dr. John Demartini. I'm going to see if I can put a little picture up here for you. But he is the author of this book right here, The Breakthrough Experience, and a bunch of other books as well that have completely changed the way I approach the markets and I approach trading. This may not be something you've ever learned in your trading journey yet. There's a chance that this is the first time you've heard about anything like this. The core messaging in the main thing I'm going to talk about that I learned myself from Dr. John Demartini is this, and it's based around Newton's third law of motion, which is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, you might not understand how this relates to trading, but I'm going to walk you through it in the next 10 minutes or so. And I guarantee if you really listen, pay attention, make some notes, practice this, it's going to change the way you approach the markets. This means you can't lose without a lesson or a benefit. Okay? Profit isn't a creation out of nothing. It's an exchange of energy. It's two sides of the same coin. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That means every time you take a loss, there is an equal and opposite lesson or benefit that comes from the loss. Whether it's a trade that you've taken yourself, it fits your plan, there's nothing you can do about it, or it's a trade that you went against your plan, you revenge traded, there is always, always, always a lesson or a benefit to every single losing trade. If you just went and blew up your prop account last night, there is an equal and opposite lesson or benefit you can benefit from that experience. We get into this thinking like, oh my God, I lost again. Or, oh my God, I blew up another account. Or, oh my God, I didn't make it to pay out again. I'm a loser. I'm this. It knocks my confidence. I'm not smart enough for this. We go through this negative spiral because we're so attached to this identity of that we were wrong, so we're not a good trader. Or we can't do this. When in reality, the loss happened and it sucks. And you lost money and you might have to restart your prop account, whatever. It created in that moment the opposite, the lesson, the benefit, something you need. You might not understand why you just blew up that prop account right now. It sucks. I understand. I've been there. But it's crafting you a lesson you will need in the future on your journey. And something I always say to my students and my people is you would rather learn the lesson now when you're either just trying to pass a funded account, 100K, whatever it is, 300K if you're up there, 50K if you're new, than when you're trading millions of dollars, when you've got live accounts, when you've got millions of dollars under capital. You don't want to be learning the lesson then. You want to be learning the lesson now. So if you feel like you're never getting across the line, you're progressing but you're not making progress, you've got to look at it. You're getting the opposite. You have to flip the switch. It's a positive. You're getting the opportunity to right those wrongs now, to learn the lesson now. So much better than having to learn the lesson when you got 4 million under asset management. But also, the other side of the coin is you can find the benefit from the loss, but there is always a negative to the profit. Until you can understand and neutralize yourself that one side is not without the other, you can't act like a poised master in the game of trading. You can't stand at the top of this negative self-sabotaging mental loop because you're not balanced. You need to understand the profit as well isn't created out of nothing. To make money in the markets, you are transmuting energy. It's an exchange of energy. It doesn't come out of anywhere. There will be a payoff. There is a drawback and a benefit to every single thing in this whole world. You're just probably not very good at finding it or learning it or understanding it. So your main problem is probably during drawdown. You hit a losing streak, you hit a few losses in a row, and you start feeling the pinch, you start feeling the pressure, you start feeling anxious, you start connecting your personal identity to that of your trading results. And you fall into this habit of thinking that it's not for you, you can't do it, trading's a scam, it doesn't work for people like you, and you try justifying all these things. The longer you're in a drawdown phase, the worse this gets. I've got some horror stories. I've been in some insane drawdowns, and this isn't just a case where I could just blow up a prop account, right? And like start again and try again. This is drawdown that I had to actually manage and minimize and claw my way back from. One thing that's really helped me on my journey and helped me navigate these drawdown phases, because they happen to everyone. There will be a time in the market where you will just hit L, and that's okay. It's how the market works. The key things you need to notice here is when you're in drawdown, your mind becomes polarized to negativity and resentment. Okay, let's just say this is you. This is your neutral, logical, rational mind. This is you in drawdown. This is you in profit. And the further you get into drawdown without hitting any wins on a losing streak here, the more your mind comes polarized towards negativity and resentment. So if this is your neutral state here, the further you swing into drawdown, your brain literally starts crafting and spotting and finding negativity, anger, resentment, all of those lower level emotional feelings. This can literally blind you to new trading opportunities. You can be so polarized towards negativity that you are unable to distinguish good setups from bad setups, trades that fit your plan, trades that don't fit your plan. And this doesn't just randomly end. Like if you're in this and you're feeling this way and you're swung and you're polarized out towards negativity, you don't just wake up one morning without doing anything and go, okay, I'm fine now, I'm better now. It doesn't work like that. There's only two ways that this gets fixed. You bring your profits back up, so you stop losing, stop going on your losing streak, and you neutralize your results again, which is fully reliant on the market, so that's not up to you at all. And more often than not, if you're in this phase, you're going to do stuff that's going to make it 10 times harder to do anyway. The other option is you need to neutralize the feeling of loss. Neutralizing the feeling of loss is going through this process where you can start to understand that the loss, the losing, the negative has created an opportunity for you, has created a silver lining, a benefit. And I do this by answering questions until I feel gratitude for the loss. I feel gratitude for losing. I feel gratitude for the mistakes. And that is something that I've learned from this dude. He talks all the time about how you can be neutral. Stop polarizing yourself. Stop having these charged emotions. So at this point, if I haven't lost you and you're still here, let me know in the chat. I want to see who's actually making it, because this is the key stuff. This is going to actually get you funded and profitable and pull money and quit your job. Okay? This is the stuff you need to know. This is the stuff that will improve your entire life, not just trading. This is the questionnaire that I go through. This is taught to me by one of my first ever mentors. This is based around the framework of Dr. Demartini. And quite honestly, I did not do this in the beginning. And this is one of the contributing factors as to why it took me so long to break through. I'm giving this to you with the hopes that you heed my warning, heed my advice, and actually do this now. And don't just let this be one of the self-help psychology videos you watch but actually never implement. Let's ask ourselves some questions. How much money did you lose? That's the first question. How much money did you actually lose from this loss? I need you to put an actual dollar amount in here. And if you're trading prop funds, the number that you lost won't be actually $3,000, right? Let's just say you've got a $300,000 prop firm account and you just lost 1%. So you're down $3,000. It's not actually $3,000, is it? It's you're down a percentage of your drawdown, and then you can work that out by how much you paid for the account. If the account cost you $200 and you've lost half of your drawdown, you're only down $100, right? Okay, so how much tangible cash money did you lose from this trade? Sweet. Let's just say it's $3,000. What exactly did you learn or gain from the loss? That's the next question. What did you learn? Okay. Maybe you didn't check news. Maybe you didn't know there was a red folder news and your stop loss just got blasted. And if you had checked the news, you wouldn't have taken the trade. So maybe you learned to always check news. Maybe you just had a really rubbish morning. Your boss has been crazy. You've got your partner's yelling. The kids are annoying. Whatever it is, you've got so much pressure built up that you are high-strung and emotional, and you took a trade that didn't fit your plan for whatever reason. Okay, what exactly did you learn or gain from the loss? There is a lesson there, and you need to ask yourself and try to get deep. What's the lesson? There's always a lesson. What's the lesson? Let's just take the news one, because I've made some losses because I didn't check news before. All right, I didn't check the loss. How will I implement those lessons moving forward? Right, maybe you put a reminder, an alert every morning that you always check forexfactory.com. You always check for news events. How will I implement those lessons moving forward? I've just made a game plan to always check for those news events. How much do these lessons stand to make me in the future? Now, this is where it starts getting interesting. If I no longer ever in my career, because I have now a plan in place to always check news, if I no longer ever blow up one trade because of a news event, how much will that stand to make me? Okay, so break it down. This cost me $3,000. Have I done this before? Have I overlooked a news event before? Probably. Let's just say even if I only do that 4 times in a year, once a quarter, I forget there's a news event and it costs me $3,000. 4 times 3 is $12,000, right? And in a year, that error, that mistake is going to cost me $12,000. And I'm 30 years old, so let's just say I'm going to trade till I'm 60. I'm just going to keep doing it till I'm 60. So that's another 30 years. So now $12,000 times another 30 years is what, $360,000? Okay, there we go. How much do these lessons stand to make me in the future? I just saved myself $360,000 from learning this lesson now. Do you get what I'm trying to do here? You need to figure out how often would you probably do this? You can look back if you've done it before. You might be doing it a lot more than that. How often would you do this? Calculate how long do you plan on trading? What's the actual dollar amount that you've just saved yourself? Brilliant. I've saved myself $300K now. All I had to do was take a $3,000 loss, but I've saved myself $300,000 by not repeating this into the future. Now, if I hadn't made the loss, would I have received this lesson so elegantly? That's the next question. Okay, let's just say I didn't check the news, but the trade went in my favor and I made $3,000. But in my backtesting my ASR, I knew I shouldn't have been in this trade because, it wasn't part of my plan to predict where non-farm payroll was going, right? If I hadn't taken the loss, would I have received the lesson so elegantly? Probably not. Because now you're going to feel a bit more euphoric. Now you're probably going to come back and trade another news event. Very unlikely if you get rewarded for a bad decision that you're just going to cut your losses and stop doing it and say, oh, thank you, that was a close call. You're probably not. You're probably going to now trade news more and more and more, and you might have a few more wins until the one day you don't. And at that point in time, that could be another 3 months down the track. And it's not a $300K account anymore. Now it's a $3 million account. This is what I'm saying. There's always a positive and there's always a benefit. There's always a lesson to losing, especially in trading. Learn it now. Learn the lesson now. Elegantly, beautifully. Find out how much you've just saved yourself. How much did you just save yourself by learning this lesson today? And it only costing you $3,000. Now I'll go deep and I'll ask myself these questions and I will go again and again and again until I literally feel grateful for the loss. Until my heart and my body feels relief. I'm not tense, I'm not annoyed, I'm not frustrated, I'm not going to bite someone's head off. I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you for teaching me this lesson right now. And, in the beginning, right, it's not going to feel fine initially. You're going to have to do this process over and over and over and over again until eventually you won't need it. It'll be natural. But in the beginning, congratulations, you just neutralized the loss. You've just transmuted negative energy of losing into positive energy of learning. And not only do we have to neutralize ourselves on a losing streak, we have to neutralize ourselves on a winning streak, on a profitable streak. Okay, my largest winning profit streak this year has been 14 trades. 14 trades in a row with not a single loser, which is great. And by about trade 6, 7, 8, 9, you can start feeling a bit more euphoric. So just like the pendulum was swinging to the side of negativity and anger, you can also be polarized towards positivity and infatuation. I'm sure you've been on a winning streak, and then you start looking at things you can buy. You start looking at new cars, you start looking at new houses, you start looking at designer clothing. You're playing out the big grandiose life you've got planned for yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that and visualizing, and I fully believe that. But if you're coming off a winning streak, your mind becomes too polarized and you start looking at everything with infatuation and fantasy. And this can quite literally reveal to you trading opportunities that don't exist. You're starting to find things. Oh, actually, I did this and that worked out. It's not part of your plan. But I'm up, got profit to spare. I'm going to take this trade. I'm going to risk. I'm going to gamble on news today. You can start finding that don't exist. These things don't exist. What happens too, if you become too polarized to the positive, is you start increasing your risk tolerance, potentially to the point of pursuing a negative edge. So if you're starting to get infatuated and you're eyeing up the Lambo, you're eyeing up the sports car, because you've just had 5, 6 win rate in a row, you start going, actually, if I just increase my risk a little bit more, then I would actually be 50 grand up for the month, not 25 grand or whatever it is. Even this year for me, I took 14 trades in a row, back-to-back wins. The math is to flip like $100 account to $1 million account, you need about 14 trades, right? If you risk your entirety of your account every time, which is ridiculous and pure gambling, but that's the idea. So you even start thinking, I can do 14 winning trades in a row. That means I in theory could flip 100 to $1 million, right? You start having a fantasy about all of these things, and that's why it's just as important to neutralize the winning streak and bring yourself back to equilibrium. Otherwise, you need to see how your profits were transformed into energy. You need to be reminded, and you need to be centered and poised at all times in the markets. And you need to be reminded that your profits were just a transformation of energy rather than objectively gaining the money, right? You still have to sacrifice something to get the profit. So I go through a series of questions similar to the ones I just talked about. How much money did I make? How much money did I make from this trade? All right, 4th trade. That was a $3,000 gain. Now, beautiful. I'm feeling a little bit euphoric. I'm feeling good, right? I'm feeling really good about it. What's going to happen is the pendulum likes to bring us back to balance. If you start swinging this pendulum further out towards euphoria, what happens? The market, the universe humbles you and brings you back to equilibrium. And if you don't want it to do that to you, you don't want it to just teach you a lesson and bring you back to baseline, you can neutralize yourself. And you neutralize yourself by asking a similar set of questions like we did before. You're saying, how much money did I win? Okay, $3,000. Then you need to find, what did you lose in order to gain that money? And initially you might think, nothing. I didn't lose a trade. I just made the money. But it's always a payoff. There's always a benefit and a drawback. So for me, I always think, right, in order for me to make that money, how much time did I spend on the charts? It might be less. For me, I don't spend probably any more than half an hour a day on the charts. So, okay, let's just say that trade took 15 minutes. That doesn't seem like a massive payoff yet. But then you've got to look at how much time and energy have you spent learning trading, right? For me, it took me 3 years just to even become break even, slightly profitable. 3 years, okay? That's a lot more, right? And how much of that time did you have to sacrifice things? Did you have to neglect people in your circle that you loved? Were you consumed, and was your mind elsewhere, and were you not showing up as the best partner or the best mother, the best husband, wife, whatever, the best friend? There is the payoff to you being profitable. There was something was paid. So I always run through it and I'm thinking, okay, I took that trade and it was a win, but my daughter wanted to play Play-Doh and I was in that trade and I couldn't give her 100% of my attention. I showed up, I did the thing, but I was thinking about that trade and how it would play out. So I couldn't give her 100% of my attention. So there is a payoff always. And you ask these questions over and over and over again, how much time you've spent learning to trade, how much sacrifice, money, energy, attention, mental well-being you've sacrificed to make that profit, and it neutralizes the win. Not anything special. You're not God. You're not this egocentric fortune teller who's just fantastic at trading. You're just someone who has transmuted the sacrifice of time and money and effort into profit. And when you neutralize yourself, you bring yourself back to equilibrium. And I do this every single weekend. I do this every single day. This is something how I finish my day. Every single day, I neutralize myself. I bring myself back to equilibrium, to be poised. I really do think this is the stuff you need to be consuming, especially I know I'm talking to people who have already been trading. Less likely you're completely new. So these are the things that make the difference, the 1%. Do you think that they're not important? They're not relevant, but they are everything, and that's what's going to get you over the line. If you enjoy these type of videos, do let me know. I mean, I've learned so many things. I've been doing this 10 years. Like, I've got so many pieces of knowledge. I've got so many stories. I've got so many things I just want to pass on, and I want to inspire you to just commit to this path and just keep pushing, even though you feel like giving up at times. I know I've been there, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And it is beautiful.